Welcome back. Welcome back to For the Troll Fantasy, most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
We're back. Here we are. Final episode of Fourth and Troll Fantasy before the fantasy football playoffs. We are priming you guys up for the last week of the regular season, recapping a Thursday night football game that was awesome. That was a great game. Had a great time. Lions pulled it out last night. Last second field goal. It was a good one. Good divisional game. Thank you, Bezos. And we got a good time going. By the way, that crew for Thursday Night Football is terrible.
Just in general?
Al Michaels. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Al Michaels, I'm so sorry. It's borderline elder abuse. Get him. Let the dude go to bed. Like he has his moments, but it's like, okay, we can be a little. Can we get Gus Johnson in the booth for primetime games? I want to hear him every week. Oh my God.
Yeah, I wonder what his contract is for because they pulled him out of NFL for college. No, so everyone says the Al Michaels joke is always, whatever Kirk Herbstreit says, he always goes, absolutely, after everything. But what I've noticed is that he doesn't ever watch the play. He just, as a handoff to Josh Jacobs, and he gets tackled, but somehow, and then he gets another yard. Because he doesn't he says, but somehow after every play, because he just like, it's a run and he's tackled. Oh, but somehow he gets another yard.
Somehow stays on his feet.
Anyway.
It's like, he was running. He put his foot in front of the other one, and that's how you run. I mean,
he can retire.
You need to introduce the science of that. And then the halftime crew. Sorry. I love Fitz. And he's the brightest spot, but it's just, man, what a fun crew that is. Good job, Bezos, to put them together real well. Anyways, we're going to recap Thursday Night Football, and then we're going to give you some Week 14 studs and duds. Final week of the regular season, to make playoffs. And these are guys that we have the full conviction on that these guys are going to either win you your week or tank your week for you. So we're going to make sure we get that information to you. Make sure you stick around for that. Follow us on all our socials. Everything is linked down below. If you want to win a signed James Cook jersey, you have a couple weeks left to do that. We're giving that away on our Patreon. If you are a patron of any tier level, we are giving away a signed James Cook jersey to one lucky patron this year. So make sure you go over there and get into that. Patreon.com/4thandtrollfantasy. You can shop our merch at fourthandtrollstore.com if you're looking for any holiday gifts. Anything like that. If you are interested, we got some fun stuff over there.
The cutest girls in the world love Fourth and Troll mugs.
That's what I heard.
That's what I've heard. I've only heard that.
That's what I heard too.
So you want to win over that cute lady? Get them a Fourth and Troll mug. Here, Photoshop one in my hand. Just edit one right here. Oh my gosh.
Lord have mercy. Anyway. Subscribe, ring the bell. Next? Let's talk about some news, and we'll move on.
Oh my gosh, what happened to us? We're as tired as Al Michaels right now.
Yeah, I know.
This is ridiculous.
But somehow we're gonna do the show.
We're at the news segment of the show. So, a couple of things here as far as practice reports. Nothing too major except the first two pieces of news here. The Giants have named Drew Lock as the starter for the Saints matchup. I am torn whether or not I should start Malik Neighbors. I'm really torn. I can't. I've got Marvin Harrison, and I like that, but New Orleans Saints defense is pretty weak against the wide receiver. Yeah. So I think that's a much better scenario than Tommy DeVito. So hopefully that pans out. I'll make a decision at some point and let you know next time. Here's the other biggest piece of news so far. Trevor Lawrence officially placed on IR due to the concussion. Mac Jones will be the starter for the rest of our fantasy football season, probably for the rest of they have nothing to play for except for a better draft pick. So Mac Jones is the quarterback for the Jaguars rest of year. Okay, here are the practice reports that we've got for major players. DJ Moore and DeAndre Swift both did not practice Thursday due to injuries. CeeDee Lamb did not practice Wednesday, was very limited on Thursday due to a shoulder injury. Breece Hall has yet to practice this week. Go get Braylon Allen. Just double check. Go find Braylon Allen. Kenneth Walker III has not practiced Wednesday or Thursday due to a calf/ankle injury. Hey, isn't that what Christian McCaffrey had like in the summer? Whatever. Anyway, go check for Zach Charbonnet as well. Check that out. And Bucky Irving has not practiced this week yet still. He is questionable with a hip injury. Exciting times just before the playoffs. Mike Evans still hasn't practiced this week as well. Questionable for the game. And then, actually, here's the biggest piece of news. This is going to affect everything. Dude. Diontae Johnson is suspended for 1 game due to, quote, conduct detrimental to the team because he refused to enter the game against the Eagles. And that means that instead of getting 0 points in playing, he's getting 0 points because he's suspended. So I can't. You saw what he did with Andy Dalton, those like week 3 and week 4. Yeah, that was a top 10 guy that I thought crazy.
It's a little annoying, and I can get his frustrations because it's like, okay, you traded for him. Why am I playing behind Nelson Aguilar, Rashad Bateman, and like Tylan Wallace? Like, why am I like what?
Yeah.
And it's now becoming a question of, did they trade for him just to get like a better compensatory pick? But
or
also,
they trade
it's like
to make sure no one else got him. I have no idea.
It just feels weird, dude. It's just a very strange situation. Watch him be the playoff darling, and he's gonna like. If in the NFL playoffs, he's going to have like 100 yards a game or something like that for them. And then he's just going to.
Impossible.
So stupid.
Impossible. All right. That's it for the news, though. Keep an eye on all these players going into the last game. We already saw what happened Thursday night. Some massive changes for playoff outcomes. Let's talk about this Packers and Lions game, which was really great. A really fun.
Great
felt
game,
like a playoff game.
It really did. It was a great game. It's a shame that division is so tight. It is. I mean, or it's a blessing. One or the other. I don't know. Like for the Packers to be now 9-4 and are and are third in their division is pretty absurd. But a great game. Really, really fun one. Got way better in the second half. Packers got going. Sorry, Josh Jacobs got going.
True.
And dude, I've never been so happy for an offensive holding call in my life. I was up against Josh Jacobs, and I was like,
Christian
"Oh, cool!"
Watson?
So he caught a or the pick play, yeah. I was like, "Oh, cool!" So he got his 4th touchdown of the game, nice. No, and then got a little saved by that, but congratulations, Josh Jacobs managers. You got off to a great start there, as well as some other guys too. Let's go over our must starts, risky starts, and don't starts. Wes,
we have to.
I guess so. But we can breeze through it. My must start, it was kind of it was a bit of a layup, but it was like, hey, let's not worry about Jahmyr Gibbs here. He's going to be back. He's going to be fine. And he was 19.3 fantasy points, out-carried David Montgomery in this game. Neither of them really getting a whole lot going on the ground. Both of them carried by the PPR game in this game, which is what happened there. But Gibbs went 15 for 43 on the ground, and then 6 for 6 in the air with 30 receiving yards and a receiving touchdown. So bit of a savior there with that receiving touchdown for him. And then it's
Jayden Reed.
So here's what we knew is that this receiver room is so stupid. This is what we knew. But it was like, you know what? This is a good opportunity. Should be a high scoring game. Jayden Reed should be involved. And Matt LaFleur was like, F that ass. Nope. He's not even like what? 0 points.
Baffled.
Donut.
So
1 target.
You said in our, so obviously totally could not be more wrong on this one on my end. And this is the point. It was like, of course there are highs and lows with Jayden Reed. I really didn't want to take the obvious ones because I wanted to try to, when I think about Thursday night must starts and risky starts, I want to think who are the players that you're having the most question about, and I think that is the player with the highest upside. But to think that the Packers scored 31 points and Jayden Reed had 1 target, I think completely eliminates him from your starting lineup. I don't actually, I looked around I'm in a ton of leagues. I don't really see anybody that started Jayden Reed anyway. So I don't think that was much of a concern for a lot of people. But I can't imagine that anyone is going to start him in the postseason after this, no matter what happens in their rosters. So, I mean, we're at the point where we can drop good players in order to secure really strong handcuffs. Jayden Reed has entered into the mix as a droppable candidate because of this.
I agree.
It's potential, but wild.
The utilization shifted so much, and it's just so inconsistent. Like he's not. It's like they go week to week deciding if he's going to be part of the game plan or not, because there are manufactured touches for him that we would see early in the year, and it's just disappeared, and it's so up and down. He was my risky start for this reason, and it was, just score 31 points and have one target in the game is pretty ridiculous. Similarly, with your risky start, Wes, was Jordan Love with 31 points scored by the Packers. I mean, we've kind of mentioned it already, but Josh Jacobs kind of carried the offense. Jordan Love had 3 completions in the first half. That was terrible.
31 yards in the first 2 quarters.
Awful. That was so bad. He gets in 6-point passing touchdown. He gets to 16.5 fantasy points. So you're probably not thrilled. I guarantee there's going to be better guys in your waiver wire that are going to score better than that. So you're not happy with that. So we hope you listened here and maybe shifted and pivoted. Wes, I saw in a league that we're in together, you dropped Jordan Love and picked up Jameis Winston because it was like, this is going to be the better option here, and I can certainly guarantee it will be. So there you go.
I mean, I'm not in playoffs in that league, but I got to try to I got to change the playoff race somehow.
So there you go. Yeah, there you go.
I got to do something here, man.
And then our don't start. I hate this guy. I hate him. And it happened like I knew it would, because we both said don't start Sam LaPorta. And and then we said, and watch, and now he's going to have a decent game. And now he's going to have a good game. And 10.4 fantasy points for the tight end spot is fine. 5 for 7 for 54 receiving yards. I thought surely it might have been a little different given that Tim Patrick had 2 receiving touchdowns in this game. Surely that was a scenario where Sam LaPorta should have had one of those receiving touchdowns, but I don't know. 10.4 is fine and up and down, whatever. Just some other guys in this game. Jared Goff had a great game, 28 fantasy points, 32 for 41, 283, and 3 touchdowns. 2 of those going to Tim Patrick, the other one going to Jahmyr Gibbs. Did have a pretty pivotal interception, but Jared Goff was awesome. Going to be, I believe we both had him inside our top 10 this week in our rankings in our Discord.
Goff?
Yeah, I think I had him as my QB7.
I'll pull it up. You keep going.
But yeah, so great performance there for him. David Montgomery, great as always. 14 for 51 and a touchdown. 5 catches for 33 receiving yards. Like I said, him and Gibbs both accounting for most of their points through the receiving production in this game.
Yeah, we each had Goff as 7 and 8 in our top 10 rankings for the week, and I think that's pretty solid.
Probably
finish
land
for
around
him.
there. I think he'll be there or better. So yeah, good stuff. If you're in that Discord and you have an opportunity to see that and start Jared Goff instead, I'm glad. I mentioned it. Tim Patrick was it was so weird. It was like, oh, you're okay. Like this is your game or whatever. I mean, he's the kind of guy that Dan Campbell loves, and he was in the right spots at right times with 22.3 fantasy points. So if somehow you started him, good on you. I don't know.
Yeah. And I was I had my eyes on amon-ra St. Brown like a hawk with 10.3 points for amon-ra on the game, who really didn't have anything until kind of that last drive to get them in that field goal range. And I was watching because I was going against him and what I need to win and I need like other people to lose too. So playing against amon-ra, they were doing a very good job covering him. And then Kirk Herbstreit decides to drop an A-bomb on national television.
Hilarious. That was I turned over the TV and had to make
ass off.
I was like, did I catch that right? Michael's had a mini stroke because of that one. Yeah.
But I get, it really sucks for people that were really counting on amon-ra St. Brown to have a solid game, even just like a 15-point game, and to just barely get double digits because of that last catch, like a 16-yard catch, 22-yard catch, whatever it is. Otherwise, kind of a down game for amon-ra. And this, I think we all agree this is a fluke for Tim Patrick.
Yeah.
I think that's just a byproduct of the Packers saying, God, stop amon-ra. We have to.
Stop amon-ra. Yeah, everyone else saw more expanded receiving roles. Running backs included, Sam LaPorta included, Jameson Williams included. Like everyone, he was the lowest guy on the pecking order as far as receiving work. They did their best to get him some opportunities, and they did fine. But like Jameson Williams, 5 for 8 for 80 receiving yards, 13 fantasy points. Most all of your Lions players you started give you a fine week, give you a good week. So there you go. Flip it over here. Josh Jacobs, 18 carries for 66 rushing yards, but he falls in the end zone 3 times, and it's just like it.
Isn't that a really?
It's so uncreative, and it's like. I'm biased because I was going against him and I'm so annoyed right now, but it was just like, oh yeah, no, go ahead. Give me another one. Yeah, sure.
Isn't that such a low fantasy output for someone that scored 3 rushing touchdowns? He didn't even have 25 points.
Yeah.
Like that, that's a weird thought. Like obviously great, but like Devon Achane owners are going to get that every week because of the PPR volume. So it's just weird to think about like, oh my gosh, those that went up against Josh Jacobs and you hear about it and you're like, man, 3 touchdowns. You look at it and you kind of consider, wait a minute, that's actually not a lot of points for 3 touchdowns because it's only 66 yards, no receptions because it got called back. So I think people can have hope that when again, you can have hope, Noah, going up against Josh Jacobs. Not even 25 points, 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, there you go.
Solid game. Things are okay. You had Gibbs in that league, so I think you're going to be just fine.
Even out a little bit. I'm in a bit of a hole, but I'm having to start Jalen Waddle this week and praying about it. So
we'll
see how it goes.
It's the Jets.
I know he does well against the Jets. He's played against them 5 times in his career. 3 of the games he's had really good games. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But couple of these other receiving options here in Green Bay, just to go over real quick. Not Jayden Reed because he scored 0 points and had 1 target, but Tucker Kraft continues to find the end zone. I thought the touchdowns were too ticky-tacky and it was just too inconsistent, but he proves time and time again to be able to find that end zone and be super athletic at the same time.
Yeah.
You see that little like backboard spring thing that he did getting up after he got drilled?
Yeah, he got clocked in the air, and then
he was like,
"Pretty cool,
check me out." So that was
like
pretty cool.
an NFL street celebration, and then scored a touchdown.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So 13.1 fantasy points, good for that. Dontayvion Wicks continues his kind of whenever there's a player out, he gets more involved. So 4 for 49, he gets 8.9 points, and then Christian Watson, 13.4 fantasy points. I'm ready to put a stake in the ground here. If I'm gonna start a Packers wide receiver, it's gonna be Christian Watson.
Fully agree.
The opportunity of a big play continues to land with him, and so if no one seems to be consistent enough to be able to be every week started, but if you have to start one, I think Christian Watson is the one to start. I'm thrilled. I started him in a dynasty league this week because I had some bye weeks, and I'm happy to start out with 13.4 points. It's awesome. So, and he fumbled, so he could have had a 15-point game. But, beyond that, dude, I don't know. Anything else? Great game.
I want to pull. It was a fantastic game. I want to pull it up here. Yards per reception for Christian Watson after this game. Christian Watson has 20 yards per reception after 14 weeks. Unbelievable.
Jalen Waddle. That's some last year Jalen Waddle type stuff. That's some prime Jalen Waddle type stuff. Okay.
The big play potential is very real for Christian Watson. So I like that a lot more than Jayden Reed, especially because obviously recency bias says I want Jayden Reed off anybody's roster.
The face of the planet.
Yeah, basically. Christian Watson, I think, is a very sneaky flex play depending on who you have in your matchups going forward.
Led the team in targets as well. So that's good stuff.
Yeah. Good guy.
Great game.
Great.
What a start to the week. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully we continue going forward here. Let's get into studs and duds here for week 14. It's the final week of the regular season of fantasy football. We've got some studs for you. some guys that you have to have in your lineup. We've got the conviction on that these guys are going to help you win your week. And then some duds, some guys that we're thinking, get these guys out of your lineup right now. If you have to win to make playoffs, do not start these guys. If you want to win your week, get them out of the lineup. They're not going to be worth the play. So let's go through them here. I've got quarterbacks and wide receivers, Wes. You've got running backs and tight ends. I'm going to start out here with quarterbacks. A guy that I'm excited to talk about here, it's Sam Darnold. He is my quarterback stud for week 14. Sam Darnold going up against the Atlanta Falcons, over 22 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. And here I was worrying that he was about to pumpkin out, that it was going to be, he was going to lose it. He wasn't going to be worth it. He wasn't going to, the early season hot streak that was happening was going to fade out. Over 22 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games. He's averaging 5 rush attempts per game over his last 4 games as well. So he's using his legs a little bit also. And Atlanta is the 8th best matchup for fantasy quarterbacks this season. Justin Herbert had a terrible week last week. He didn't attempt to pass in the second half. The defense completely won the game for the Chargers. But before that, the last 3 opposing quarterbacks for the Atlanta Falcons were the QB3, the QB6, and the QB7 on the week. And Derek Carr was in there as well. So this is a great matchup for your fantasy quarterbacks. I love Sam Darnold this week. I think he's a great play, especially with a lot of guys on bye weeks. I think he's out there on waiver wires potentially, and I think he's somebody definitely worth starting in fantasy football this week. Now, my dad, it's Caleb Williams up against the San Francisco 49ers. He's been great the past 2 weeks. He's been awesome. But I think he returns to form a little bit as a rookie who can make some mistakes. The matchup against San Francisco is not great. Quarterbacks against San Francisco, not named Josh Allen, have been QB 16 or worse since week 5. Only 3 quarterbacks all year have been better than quarterback 16 up against the San Francisco 49ers. And one of them was Kyler Murray, who had a 50-yard rushing touchdown. And that really launched him into that top 5 quarterbacks for the week there. So I'm a little worried. I think he's going to return to his rookiness, so to speak. But if Caleb looks good in this matchup, I think what's safe to say that he has a very bright future as a fantasy relevant quarterback for years to come. If he puts up a top 10 week this week, I think it is very safe to consider him a QB1 for next season, a starting quarterback for your fantasy teams next year if he continues to be able to do this, especially as Rome Odunze continues to grow as well, and he grows more rapport in the offense, and hey, gets a coaching regime that's actually good. There's an idea. So Caleb Williams is my dud, but Sam Darnold is my stud at the quarterback spot.
I think everyone is very excited to see this Vikings-Falcons game. Kirk Cousins against the Vikings.
Yeah,
Sam Darnold having a not quite an MVP season, but having a fantastic year, leading this team to the playoffs. And I think you and I both have Sam Darnold as a potential top 5 quarterback. So I am in full agreement, and I cannot wait to see how this game turns out. Running backs. Stud running back. Here's what I've got for you. If he's healthy, no matter what, you start Bucky Irving. My dud is stud. I was thinking of a totally different word. My stud. No. My stud, Bucky Irving. If he's healthy, you line him up no matter what. I know that this is the final week of the regular season, and you want to make sure you have full confidence. But how do you not have full confidence after a guy that was literally the best running back last week, but 25 carries? This hip injury is a guy who put it all on the field to really shouldn't have won. The kind of Panthers are kind of messed up, but the Buccaneers won because of Bucky Irving's excellence. I really believe in Bucky Irving as a playoff hero, as the lead back in Tampa Bay. Last 3 games, 13 carries, 12 carries, and then a whopping 25 carries. That's RB1 caliber. That's serious. And then on top of that, he's averaging 5.6 yards a carry at the worst. At the worst. That's the worst he's done in the last 3 games. Rachaad White may still have a small factor, and I know the Raiders' defense is pretty tough, but Bucky Irving has to be in your lineup, no question, if he's healthy. Do not think about it. Do not think twice. Bucky Irving is in. Now, my dud is also a player who is somewhat coming off an injury. My dud for the week is Isaiah Pacheco. This guy, we've waited such a long time for him to come back. And I think we all expected Pacheco to return as the RB1 and to have the backfield to himself because we thought it was going to be some kind of mix between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Carson Steele and Samaje Perine. Guess what? Kareem Hunt has really made an impression on this Chiefs offense and is no joke. And Andy Reid has had to answer the question, what do you do when Pacheco is back with how well Kareem Hunt has done? He says, I'm going to use them both. And guess what he did last week? He used them both. 7 carries each. This guy is having a tandem now. And I do not trust Isaiah Pacheco to get me enough points against one of the best rush defenses in the NFL, the Chargers. I do not like this matchup. I do not like the tandem that is in Kansas City right now. My dud is Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah, I think there's I think they don't have a reason to bring Pacheco back full strength yet. I think I don't think they, especially last week, I don't think there's any reason for them to go back to him being the 15 to 18 touch per game kind of guy yet, because they have a guy who's been fine for them that they can split work with, but they're easing him back in for the NFL playoffs. So yeah, I agree. I think Pacheco is a scary start, and I think he has a potential for dud candidate for sure. So, all right. I see your Tampa Bay running back stud. I raise you a Tampa Bay wide receiver stud. My wide receiver stud for week 14 is Mike Evans going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. What do you mean? He hasn't practiced this week. I'm not worried. Okay. I believe they're just managing him and he'll be good on Sunday. I believe they're doing some load management. I believe they're just wanting to make sure he's all good coming off a hamstring injury. You don't want to work it too much. We just saw Devontae Smith have a hamstring injury that he didn't play for 2 weeks because he's been managing that. And then he came back now this week, fully participating in practice, and he's fine. I believe they're just managing Mike Evans. Do you know why?
Why?
Because Tampa Bay wants to get him that 1,000-yard season so bad. I know it, dude. I know they do. He had a 36% target share last week. Yeah, this was a game that he did not need to have that kind of target share. Bucky Irving was doing great. It was being very efficient for them. They chose to go ahead and feed him, and I believe they will continue to feed him. I believe they do want to get him that 1,000 yards. I believe Baker really, really wants to get his guy that 1,000 yards for the 11th consecutive season. I believe they're going to work really hard to do it. The Raiders are allowing the 7th most touchdowns to wide receivers this season, and I believe the game script will be fine enough from Aiden O'Connell. I believe he'll be able to do enough to make Tampa still have to play offense in this game. And so I believe that this will be an opportunity here for Mike Evans to rack up some points for you, help you continue into the fantasy playoffs, because they want this guy to be able to continue and get to Jerry Rice's record. I believe it's going to happen. Mike Evans is my stud. Now my dud. Same game as my quarterback dud, just on the other side of the football. My wide receiver dud for week 14 is Deebo Samuel going up against the Chicago Bears. 3 straight weeks under 6.1 fantasy points. 5 straight weeks under 13 fantasy points. The Bears are allowing the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers this season. For me, in the final week of the regular season, it's not worth buying into the hope of expanded rushing opportunities with Christian McCaffrey gone to put him in the lineup. I believe that Deebo is being phased out of this offense, if I'm being honest. I think they're preparing for him to not be there next year. We're seeing Juwan Jennings playing a bigger role. Deebo Samuel is a dud in week 14. I'm staying away if I have the opportunity to. And I understand that's difficult with a bunch of teams on bye weeks, but Deebo Samuel is scary in week 14. He is my dud.
I haven't started Deebo in like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
In like the one league I have him still. I haven't started him in forever. And I drafted him in like 3 leagues. So I think I haven't started him in 2 leagues in forever. And
does he fall into the same category as Jayden Reed right now? Like if we get through this week, can he, and it's another stinker, is he droppable for a quality handcuff?
There's a little too much of a reputation behind Deebo Samuel, more than Jayden Reed has, you leave him on your bench, and the chance that if you win and Deebo's on your bench and he is the offense with like 10 targets and like 5 carries and stuff like that,
sure.
Then you take a look and see, is it worth it? But,
Okay.
But it doesn't really matter because it's going to take a lot for, I think, most people to be convinced to even start him again because
Sure.
he's been terrible. Yeah, they paid Brandon Ayuk an absurd amount of money after all of that offseason drama. And Juwan Jennings looks great. They also paid Christian McCaffrey. They have to pay Brock Purdy soon, so there's reason
they paid
to
Juwan
believe
Jennings this offseason too. They gave him a contract extension.
That's true.
I think Deebo's gone. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, a lot of discussion about that. So here's one last thing for your stud: 521 yards right now. 521 yards from Mike Evans. Okay,
he needs like
14,
93,
15, 16, 17, 18.
I believe it's 93 yards a game for the rest of the season to be able to hit that.
We'll see what happens. I'm rooting for him.
I think Baker's going to be pushing it. I think he's going to be trying to get his guys the record. So there you go.
That's awesome. All right, tight ends, studs and duds. My tight end stud is going to be out of desperation. Okay, there's my big asterisks. Evan Ingram is my stud out of desperation. Okay, I do not think Evan Ingram is going to break into the top 10, but if you have a tight end that is on a bye week, or there are some injuries you're concerned about, or you have been streaming tight ends and you really don't like who you have, here's the reason I think Evan Ingram could be a sneaky good play. Mac Jones has been his quarterback for the last 3 games, okay? Because that concussion that Trevor Lawrence suffered against the Texans was really early. So Mac Jones played a lot of that football. Since Mac Jones has been his quarterback, kind of impressive. 8 targets, 7 targets, 9 targets. I'll take that from a tight end, okay? And we all know Evan Ingram is an important part of that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. He's an important part of that passing game. He got a big contract the year before. We know that he's there for the long term. He's someone that they all love. He was almost ejected from the game, the Texans, because he cares about his team and his quarterback. And so he loves this team. And Mac Jones knows that if he wants to have any chance of winning any more football games, he's got to throw it to Evan Ingram. And I like these odds. The last 3 games as well, the targets, 6 catches, 5 catches, 7 catches. Full PPR. I'm liking the chances of getting a decent double-digit game from Evan Ingram. Again, asterisks. Out of desperation, Evan Ingram is a stud. Here's my dud. And it pains me to say it because we were talking about, a week or so ago with biggest turkeys of the fantasy football season. He's definitely in this conversation. My biggest regret, I think, for drafting as early as I did for this player. And I think even though if he comes back from this injury and he's playing, people may wonder. Here, let me help you out. Do not start Dalton Kincaid. He's a dud for the rest of the year. I do not see any reason that he should be in anyone's lineup. I know that he could have a good game here and there, but you haven't had him for several weeks. And what have you had in those games that you have started Dalton Kincaid? What a waste of a draft pick. I mean, unless he just somehow has this incredible playoff surge and is getting like 20 points a game because Josh Allen finds Dalton Kincaid incessantly in the end zone. Most people have dropped Kincaid by this point, including myself, including many people. Kincaid is not worth even rostering at this stage. So if Kincaid is healthy, I do not think you should start him. Dalton Kincaid is my dud for this last week of the regular season of fantasy football.
All right. That's it.
All right.
Let us know in the comments what you need to make your fantasy playoffs. Drop it in the comments. We definitely want to know. If you have any start sit questions, ask them there. Make sure you're following us on our socials. We're always getting stuff out there for you. If you want to sign James Cook jersey, like I mentioned, patreon.com/4thandtroll fantasy and 4thandtrollstore.com for all your holiday needs with Teddy the Troll. Get that cutie's phone number with the 4th and Troll mug. So there you go. This is it, man. When we see you guys again, we will know. Wes, where are you at in leagues that you're in? What are your playoff scenarios? What do you need this week to make playoffs, or you're eligible? Have you clinched?
Where I'm eligible.
Is there anywhere that's like you need something? You mentioned something about you need you to win and other people to lose. And
yeah, I'll tell you what, this has been a pretty rough year for me. I got beat up by injuries and just a really weird start to the season. I've been talking to people, and this has been one of the most confusing and difficult years of fantasy football. So thank you for listening to Fourth and Troll and for trying to help you along this very difficult 2024 fantasy season. I've got 2 leagues that I'm in that I have not yet clinched. And I've got 1 I have clinched. And all the others I'm already eliminated. Okay, so in our family league, as you know, I'm in first in our division of 2, 7-6. That's first place. Again, just the strangeness we talked about last episode of like everyone was 6-6.
We play each other in that league this week, Wes.
We do play each other, so a lot at stake.
I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, it is like the tiebreaker is like head-to-head record, and I don't remember what who like has. I know like everyone was like 6-6 for a second, but I was like the second amongst the 6-6. So I'm like, I guess I must have a decent head-to-head. I don't know. I'm hoping to win, but we'll see.
But here's the biggest one, okay? Because I was talking about at the start of the show, I was watching amon-ra, St. Brown's playing against him. So I need to win, okay? I need to win. I also need 2 teams to lose, okay?
Okay.
And it's entirely possible. Right now, the odds are in that or swaying that way. I also need to make sure that I am not outscored by either of those teams, because that's how that system is in that league. Outscoring whoever has the highest season points has the tiebreaker in the record. So I need a lot of help. It's tough. I'm trying my best. I'm so grateful to hear in our Discord the advice we're giving. People are crushing it on Discord because of our advice. They are soaring. We have someone who has only lost once.
They're 12
and they only lost. They were the second highest scoring team that week, and they happen to play the highest scoring. So that's my victory. Shout out to Jared. And I cannot wait to hear how he does. How are you before we close out the show? You doing okay?
I'm okay. I'm doing all right in a couple leagues. I've clinched in 1. I've clinched in 2 actually. And then almost our entire league was close to clinching last week. We needed, if one guy would have won in our league that we're with some of my college buddies, Wes, that you and I are in together as well. If one guy would have won, it would have set the entire playoff field, and it would have been like, boom, that's set. This week wouldn't have mattered except for seeding. He lost, so now there are 5 teams fighting for 4 playoff spots. It's like it's pretty ridiculous. We're all 7-6 or 6-7, and I feel fairly comfortable. I don't, even if I lose I can't lose and be outscored by like 80 points or something like that. So I feel okay there. And then Wes, in the creators league that you and I are co-managing this team in together.
That's right. That's one more. That's
currently
one more
the 6th seed. Yeah, we're currently the 6th seed. And if even if we lose, I think we can lose and just not be outscored by like 75 points, and I think we still make playoffs there. So we'll see. We had Jameson Williams, so it was a decent start to the week. So there you go. Drop in the comments what you need for your playoff scenarios, and we will make sure we are communicating with you guys there. We will see you next time for a playoff primer as we get into the fantasy playoffs. It's going to be a fun time. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been Fourth and Troll Fantasy. Fourth and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media Group and Selby Artistic Workshop.